Magic Man. Come with me as we make a journey to various places to interview some artists and learn what inspires them to put the magic in their artwork. We're going to be learning some tips and tricks, and we're going to be looking at some really great artwork. Our first interview will be with Bill Wells, an artist I've known for about 30 years. He's put together a book of his artwork that you can get through me if you're interested. He's done a lot of nice stuff. We're going to be looking at some of it and talking to him. So let's go see Bill.
Okay, when you asked me what picture I would like to talk about, sit in front of and show, I said, well, that one, because it brought back memories. It's a painting I did of the house where I lived with my folks. They moved into town in spring of 1967. I painted it in watercolor. I do a lot of watercolor. Sometimes I'll do what you call egg tempera, which is like watercolor with the egg yolk and your paints. And a little bit too much to go into right now about egg tempera, but this particular one was done in watercolor. I do some masking when I'm doing things. I'll put masking here where the posts are and different things, and then I can put washes of color behind, and it will stand out, and I go and splatter and do stuff. Because my philosophy about what I do is, if I can't get interested in it, or it doesn't have something to do with my life, some emotional tie to my life, or something along that line, I'm really not too interested. I can get interested in things if people have me do a painting and they tell me about it, or the photograph reminds me of something someplace I've been, or something that brings back some memories of mine. I can put some feeling into it. But I like the sunshine and the shadow. I like painting sunlight on the side of a house. Well, you got that. But warm color maybe in the shadows, because the warmth of a thing is what appeals to people. So if I've got warm colors in there, people seem to respond to it more. And
what is your technique for starting this type of picture?
well, I will make a drawing on tracing paper, which is easily corrected. Tracing pad. Sometimes I'll even, if I've got a photo, my students all know this, I'll make a grid on the photo and a grid on my tracing paper, and I'll work out all the complicated parts of it. Sometimes I just freehand the whole thing if it's not too complicated. And but I make that drawing on the tracing paper, and then I take it. In this case, I stretch a piece of watercolor paper by wetting it in the sink or in the bathtub and stapling it down while it's wet on a board that I use. And then when it dries, it's tight as a drum and it's smooth. It's flattened out. It's not all wrinkly. You can't paint on wrinkly things and do a good job. So when it dries, I trace my drawing that I drew on tracing paper and worked out and corrected. I trace it down on the watercolor paper with what I call a graphite sheet. Think of the old carbon paper. If you're older, if you're someone my age, you'll remember the carbon paper that was used in your typewriter or whatever. Well, it's the same principle. It's graphite, and I use a sharp, maybe a ballpoint pen that doesn't write anymore. Or if you want to use one that does write, you can tell where you traced. And I trace it down, and it's ready to paint. And I apply washes, usually slowly, beginning with the sky and the background. And I've done some masking where I can protect the area, and so there's no white paint. You won't find any white paint here. It's white paper that you're seeing because it's been painted around. Instead of painted over, it's painted around. Gives the illusion of coming forward in the light because it's got that sparkle of the white paper. And I've been using what they call bright white, which is Arches 140-pound watercolor paper, the bright white. There's the traditional. It's white, but it's not quite as sparkly maybe as the bright white. I don't think I even had the bright white with this. Come to think of it, I did this about 20 years ago, so it's not a new painting, but it's one that brings back memories.
And your experience, what kind of education do you have in your background as far as, like when you started doing artwork, were you doing it in high school, all your life? What can you tell us?
Very few credentials that I have. That I can't say I have a PhD. I can't say I have a master's in fine art. I can't say I have a bachelor's degree. I have what I call a degree of experience. I just started trying and learning, teaching myself, but I have to credit a lot of books. You can't have too many books that explain. If it's a book that pertains to what you do, I wouldn't take one on some subject or some medium that I'm not really interested in, but I've got books on watercolor and oil and acrylics, and even one on egg tempera. And I experiment all the time, and I pretty well taught myself. I took the famous artist course a long time ago. I was a teenager when I started it, and it was a 2-year course, and it took me 3 years. They wrote and said, you better finish this pretty soon, because you were supposed to do it in 2 years. So in 3 years, I did complete it and got a diploma. I think I got an overall grade of B+, and they said in order to be a professional artist, you would really need a grade of A or A+. So they knew I had not learned enough yet. It took me years to learn how to execute what I do now, and now it comes natural more because from practice. You can't do it enough.
Do you use the camera a lot with your work?
I had a lot of photographs, and my wife takes a lot for me, and she makes copies. She can make me copies on the printer, and I can use them as guides. I do things to create an interesting design. For instance, this house used to have an extension back here where the kitchen and everything was, and it almost like a lean-to. I didn't like that, and originally it didn't have that. So I painted it the way it looked, almost like it looked when it was first built. It was white when they lived there. Later they painted it tan, I think. But anyway, I did it more to please myself, and I called that artistic license.
Do you take commission work, or when somebody is interested in getting a portrait done or something like that, or do you sell prints too?
I've taken commissions, and I will do that, and I've done a few commission portraits, even animal portraits a time or two, and most of the time I'm just painting memories from my life. People notice I like houses. I like old houses. Did a demonstration at the Mena Art Gallery there a couple of years ago to the folks. We do that there. An artist to begin the meeting of the membership meeting, an artist will demonstrate something or talk about it. And I did this little house in the snow, and everybody liked it. It had the light coming in, early morning sun coming. That sort of thing is what I like to do. I can do other things. I don't do much weird stuff, but I can do it, and it depends on what you call weird, I guess. People think I'm weird. Maybe all artists are weird in their own way. But I paint feelings as much as I do things.